Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. Oh my gosh, look at that panel of Batman. You have the Absolute, you have the Deluxe. DC Comics firing on all cylinders.
Welcome back to Near Mint Condition. Man, this is a summer filled with Superman, and what better way to kick off your summer than the Superman Adventures Compendium 1 overview. Let's go ahead and do it. Oh my goodness, we have something big for you today. I am Dom of X, comicreleases.com associate editor, and also the manager of Near Mint Condition. Today we're going to be taking a look at the compendium right in front of you, which is the Superman Adventures Compendium Volume 1, Book 1, whatever you would like to call it in this form. This is also the first compendium that I've ever opened and also have done an overview of. I don't usually typically get these books, but when Omar presented me with the idea of doing an overview of it, I could not refuse. Here is a look at the front cover, which does pull from the 14th issue of Superman Adventures, silhouetted, very much so like the TV show. Again, a Rick Burchett cover with Scott McCloud, Paul Dini, Rick Burchett, and Mark Miller prominently listed as the four creators on this book, although there are a couple of names that I would also have loved to see there, but that is just, again, me being picky. Here is a look at the side of the book with a Rick Burchett drawing of Superman, his version of the Man of Steel. So you got Compendium 1, same font as the front, except in yellow, and then the DC Bullet logo on the bottom. I probably will say DC Bullet logo from the remaining time on forward. And then here is a look at the back of the book with all of the covers that are collected in this, presented along with a short synopsis of the stories that you might find in here, along with the premise of the stories in the Superman Adventures Compendium. I do have the Batman and Robin Adventures Omnibus here on the right-hand side. And as again, you can see both of them silhouetted, just like the respective TV shows that they are from. Paul Dini also on both of them. Rick Burchett also on both of them. So very nice to see that. Let's go ahead and crack this one open. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look inside the Compendium 1 of Superman Adventures. Here on the front flap cover, we actually do have the same image that they used on the spine here on the cover of the book. And next to that, for the next page, you do have the Compendium 1 credits for all of the creators involved in the book, from the writers to the letterers, artists, colorists, finishers, etc. And then a look on the left-hand side, you do have the original editorial team, along with the collected edition editorial team, along with copyrighted material information printed at the Celisco printers, as per the usual, and the table of contents from front to back. This is a big one. So what is listed in this book? Well, previously this listed issues 1 through 29, annual number 1, Batman and Superman Adventures World Finest number 1, and Superman Adventures Special, Superman vs. Lobo, Misery in Space number 1. But I'm actually here to say that they have taken out one issue and put in a whole bunch of other issues in the meanstead. Here you see the issue Batman Adventures number 25. So the brand new, or the contents that came out today, or this week I should say rather, for the Superman Adventures Compendium 1 are issues 1 through 28 and annual number 1 of Superman Adventures, along with the Superman Adventures Special, Superman vs. Lobo, Misery in Space number 1, I should say, included here thereof, along with two issues that have oddly never been before collected. We have Superman Adventures Titus Game Edition issue number 0, which is the prelude and tie-in to the Nintendo 64 Superman the New Adventures video game. And then on top of that, you do have Batman and Superman Adventures World's Finest issue number 1, which is an adaptation of the very, very famous episode of Bruce Wayne coming over to Metropolis to steal Lois's heart, and then the Joker and Lex Luthor team up to take out Batman and Superman. One of my favorite episodes from the series. But yes, just like in the vein of the Batman adventures and also the Batman and Robin adventures, Batman Beyond, etc., they did decide to make tie-in comics to the now famous Superman show that came out in the mid-late 90s. Tim Daly, of course, being the voice for Superman in those old TV shows, heard his voice in every single one of these pages. Here you do have a lot of different writers on this book, but the main one, of course, at least for the first half of the stuff that's in here, Scott McCloud, with Paul Dini writing issue number 1, which kicked off the brand new ongoing series along with the World's Finest issue. Hilary J. Bader, who writes one of my favorite issues, which is the annual that deals with some fate, perhaps, and I will get back to it in a minute. Mark Avinier, who takes on a couple of issues, and Mark Millar, who actually takes a hold of much of the second half of the book, although it isn't all him. You do have some issues sprinkled in by Devin Grayson, Joey Cavalieri, and David Michelinie. Artist is, for the most part, at least in this book, is none other than Rick Berchet, who took on the artist duties for much of the Batman and Robin adventures, at least for the penciling and inking. Inking, you have Terry Austin, who is a former inker of John Burns. Mike Parobeck, who took over, or should I say, was on the Batman Adventures issue. Mike Manley, who takes up the mantle of not only the inker, but also the main penciler for the fill-ins. Neil Vokes, and also plenty of other artists and pencilers. So this is interesting because this book also does contain the first team up with the DC AMU Batman, and that is how I will refer to him as at least in my time on Reddit, that is how I referred to the Batman from the Batman animated series by Kelly Puckett. Kelly Puckett, who wrote the first issue, would also become, I think, one of the premier Batman writers and creators of the early 21st century. And you have those two teaming up for the first time with Lex Luthor, against Lex Luthor, with the flowing red hair that looks plenty like Lysandre from Pokemon X. I'll probably put up a picture of him. That is just at least what my mind first went to when I was like, that's not Lex Luthor. That's somebody I know from another franchise that I deeply love. Friends in High Places with Batman. So you have this book, or that specific issue where Superman first shows up, being a perfect introduction to the start of their unique friendship, and also teases us what's in store for this version of the Man of Steel, and also the brand new ongoing title to come. Most of the early issues, like I mentioned, are written by Scott McCloud with art from Rick Berchet. With the exception of that first issue is drawn by none other than Mike Parobeck, but Rick Berchet does take up most of the covers and also most of the pencils that are in here. You also have that first issue specifically written by Paul Dini, which introduces us to this version of the Man of Steel, and also our second encounter in this specific book with DCMAU's Lex Luthor, or as I like to call Mr. Krabs, but who also happens to be Lex Luthor because of the show that I was watching. Well, not around this time, but much later in my life was, of course, SpongeBob, and I'm more familiar with Clancy Brown as Mr. Krabs than Lex Luthor. But anyways, that is besides the point. You also have the Man of Steel trying to acclimate to his environment. This is a completely seemingly brand new superhero that just shows up, and everybody's like, well, is he about good? Is he about bad? We have no idea who this character is or who this person is, but some people are apprehensive of it. Lois is apprehensive at first, but a couple of other people are like, hey, maybe this person is actually kind of good. You know, they're saving people. They're out in the sky, they're flying around, but it's not like they're going around and trying to destroy and dismantle lives. But that again, some people who aren't fully sold are eventually going to be fully sold on this brazen new hero that appears in the skies of Metropolis. Because of that, Superman gets obstacles thrown at him that often include challenges that very much shakes up that peaceful status quo. Sometimes you have doppelgangers that look like him, or maybe act like him, or have the same powers as him, trying to distract the public from the eyes of hey, Superman's an actual good guy. Like, there's something going on here that we can ruffle feathers with, because we don't want the Superman to be all good or have a good public image. So that public image is challenged by the very people that are either intimidated by him or look to him as a threat or a menace to whatever their plans are. And of course, most of that is involving Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor, in almost every single piece of media that I have watched or read or whatever it might be, happens to be the most powerful and also the most impactful villain, or just overall enjoyable villain. I don't know how you decide to call it, but he is one of my favorite villains and characters in comics. You want to talk about adaptations like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, Smallville, and even the new Supergirl TV show, or the CW TV show that came out. Lex Luthor is often one of my favorite villains to watch in that. And every time he shows up in this specific book to combat Superman, no, not by his brawn, because Lex Luthor and Superman, if they fought each other with just their bare hands, there is definitely only one person that is going to come out alive in that specific fight. Now, it turns all of these issues, or at least the ones that Lex Luthor shows up in, from a stereotypical TV show-like script into a fantastic and great one. It's like I'm sort of seeing Mr. Krabs and Lex Luthor being confused or combusted together and confused together into one, and it's just so fantastically epic. I really do love this version of Lex Luthor. One of my favorite stories in this specific book is the issue. It's the third issue, actually, where we are introduced to the DCMAU version of Brainiac in this specific ongoing and its context, who is attempting to further his collection of knowledge in the namesake of preservation. And of course, as you all might know, Brainiac wants to explore and take worlds in for himself, or take bits of information and pieces of knowledge to himself, because he believes that knowledge is power. And in this, we also get to see these incandescent orbs that withhold some of these pieces of information, where Superman is sort of analyzing the orb that contains Krypton and all of its people and its knowledge in it. But when I'm telling you guys, when Clark decides that when he's given the chance to sort of it's either preserve the memory of this at the behest of Brainiac ransacking Metropolis because he wants that piece of item, it's completely crystalline, and the last page sends me shivers when you experience the lasting effects of his decision. You also have a lot of other different characters that also pop up in here to challenge Superman, like Mr. Mixtius-Pitalik and the conundrums of saying his name twice backwards with a caveat. You also have characters like Jax-Ur and Mala, the Kryptonians, who are in one issue completely small, and they're like, you've seen those episodes where you see somebody inside a jar and they're like, you can't kill me, I'll get out of here somehow. And the way that it's written is so terrifically wonderful. And it ends up being one of those, if you guys have seen the Thanos or Ant-Man goes inside Thanos and comes out of his butt meme, something like that happens, and I won't spoil as to how they got there or to that point, but that two-parter is one of my favorite stories in this book. You also have other classic Superman villains, such as Toyman and his cronies, who are toys, also making an impact with their introduction to this specific comic. Now, imagine Clark having to deal with all of these intergalactic beings or even earthly supervillains, while also worrying about people who have kryptonite and they have it in the wrong hands. So sometimes you get issues where there are two specific things that Clark has to fight, where it's, oh my goodness, there's a big baddie and they're trying to either destroy Metropolis, or maybe there's something that they want from Metropolis. And then on top of that, you have somebody out in the wild and random saying, hey, we finally got kryptonite. I think we can take on Superman one-on-one and decide to fight him and beast him in the actions. So you have issues like that where Superman has to figure out how to stop 2-in-1, and those issues are ended up I think some of the favorite are. And those issues ended up being some of my favorite issues overall, and it often happens. I found a lot of the material in this book to be very enjoyable, and it takes a lot of the fluff out of the book, I would say. But overall, with making it something more action-packed and something that you would enjoy on your television on a Saturday morning. I was not a Saturday morning kid. I think I was a little bit past the time, but I think that everybody reading this book would have those vibes continuing on with the stories in it. On top of that, and on the very same note, Superman also has to learn and deal with the balances of his invulnerabilities to kryptonite and magic. So it's not just Superman saying, there's a big bad out and I need to maybe figure it out with my hands or figure it out with the smarts. Sometimes it is literally the entire issue dealing with, how do I not be so vulnerable to kryptonite? Or is there any way that I could deal with my weakness in magic? So there are some characters in here that maybe you have seen from the Batman the Animated Series TV show, or if you are a big, long-time fan of Action Comics and have read a lot of those specific issues with guest stars that I will not spoil, at least in the midst of my commentary, you will see some of those guest stars pop up in this specific comic book, and I'm telling you, those are also enjoyable issues as well, and they also ended up being some of the longer ones. The one that I'm vaguely referencing to right now is specifically where Superman is at a magic show, and he sees somebody in the magic show that he recognizes, and he asks, how do I take away my invulnerabilities? But it's not Superman, and it's not Clark Kent asking this person. You will have to read the issue to find out for yourself, because I found that specific issue very, very enthralling and also very heartwarming. There's a lot of heartwarming moments in this issue, or in this book with all of these issues, and I'll get to those in a minute. We also see a very big theme in this book is just overall seeing how Lex Luthor severely impacts every single bit of Superman and the society that he has decided to protect and envelop himself in. From the Daily Planet to the very citizens that are in Metropolis, and also the parts of Metropolis that need work on, that people are still trying to make a big living or even a small living out of the city, and maybe their heroes aren't the ones that they expected. But we get to see how his effect reaches not only to the bigger parts of the city and not against Superman, but you also get to see a lot of the citizen life in this book, which honestly I think is pretty cool. There hasn't been, I think, anything in this title that doesn't hit all of the notes where I am expecting it to. Typically with a lot of these superhero books, or with Superman books, I always like to see a lot of different facets of how the writers decide to approach Superman, whether it's by Clark's brain or metal or detective work, because after all, he is a reporter and he's not a dull guy. I think he is very capable of doing investigative work just alongside, or maybe not as good as Lois, but I think he's still pretty good at that job. Sometimes it's about figuring out how to create stories where Superman has to solve things not with just his fists, but getting around somewhere else. And that's what I love about the Mr. Mixtius-Pitalik stories. But I also like seeing stories where it's not just focused on him, but there's also a focus on the people that he protects in this city. One thing that is very prevalent in this specific compendium, and also in the tie-in specifically, which all of them are, now mind you, is just how delighted Superman is and how wanting Superman is to attempt to save everybody. There is a specific story in here as well, and there's multiple, but there's a specific story in here where Superman is on the verge of passing away because he got infected by something. He is in an ambulance, and they are trying to keep him alive. But Superman, because he hears somebody, and granted you, it's not Lois Lane, he hears somebody. The first instinct for him to do, he is nearly on his deathbed. The doctor's telling him that he doesn't have as long to live. The first thing that he does is run out to attempt to save that person, which is just some of the great, like, it gives me the feels to see superheroes being superhero-y, being heroic, being above the slum that Lex Luthor is. It's such a dynamic contrast to how you see Lex Luthor being all conniving and saying like, hey, no, like, I don't, things shouldn't be this way, I want to control things. And seeing Superman be the complete opposite of that, into this hero that wants to do as much good as he can, no matter what the situation is, even if it involves him being in a situation where he doesn't even want to be in. It gives me the nicest feels. Like, there is nothing better to me than to see heroic acts done by superheroes. And every single issue has that. There is no sense of non-belonging in terms of what you are going to get in these stories, because every single issue has the heroic Superman that I think we have all been waiting for. And I think that's what makes this compendium so much worth it. But not only that, you'd not only have Lex Luthor and Mr. Mistchiss and all of these other different villains. Livewire, whenever she makes an appearance, always puts on this dazzling performance when she jumps out of the computer to make a scene, and her electric personality and all of these different bits and styles make these issues feel very heavy. And I really like the way that Rick Burchett not only draws her, but his interpretation of the Bruce Timm style makes all of these issues and all of the art inside that he does anyways. It emphasizes all of the actions and all of the emotions that all of these characters are going through. There's so many panels that feel so Ditko-esque and Swan-esque inspired. And I can't help but notice the Silver Agey feel that he manages to mix with the Bruce Timm animated style, because a lot of these panels are gaped in from a lot of Silver Age. Like, there are Spider-Man homages from the Silver Age that are drawn by Ditko in these pages of Superman adventures based on the animated series. You'll also have a really strong focus with the Daily Planet. I kind of glossed over that early on, but it's also as strong, and as it should be in the bits that we do get Jimmy Olsen or Lois Lane in the spotlight. They also have to deal with the effects of Superman being this completely brand new person in town. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? I really like it when Jimmy Olsen is facing conundrums because of this brand new Superman. There's one issue where he has to get pictures of Clark, or I should say Superman, or Clark as Superman, and his boss, Editor-in-Chief Perry White, is just like, these pictures are not going to cut it. They stink. They absolutely are garbage. So Jimmy Olsen has to find a way, and even if his pay isn't as high as he would like it to be, he still goes out there and does his job, and does his job well. And he gets into the messiest situations, but that's Jimmy Olsen for you. He always finds a way out. And I think his there are a couple of his issues where they legitimately make me crack up. Lois Lane also obviously has a very big and major role to play in the story, as you may know. Undercover work. You got journalism. Sometimes she's going to other countries because she needs to figure out the bottom of a case that needs to be solved. And often you also find herself in endeavors against Lex Luthor and the rest of Metropolis's villains, because again, it is not a Superman book without Lois Lane being in some rough danger, but she gets her money's worth on her. I will say that she is definitely more than capable of being able to run herself into the most dangerous situations. And she also has some of the best spotlight issues. And yes, her sassiness, charm, and also the very kind spirit at the bottom of it are admirable and very much showcased in this. And if you are a big fan of the show and their interpretation of Lois Lane, you will have no troubles, I think, with this interpretation of Lois Lane as well. And yes, the Archie-like love triangle is still also very prominent in this compendium. It's not like that has gone anywhere. But yes, close friends that you also might be familiar with, such as Bibbo Babowski and his very flamboyant personality, and also one of my favorite Superman supporting characters, are also featured in this book. So you are getting all of the sides of Superman featured in this as well. You also have Lobo being thrown in this. I passed through it earlier, but you also have him thrown into the wind with an issue written by Devin Michelini himself that not only has great punchlines, but also get to see a little bit of the heart that the main man shows, and also the similarities between him and Superman. And I found that oddly touching, too. I usually don't say that about many Lobo stories, because after all, you want to see him kick butt and smoke that cigar, right? Is that how they say it? Anyways, there's also an issue in this book where Superman has to come to grips with his work-life balance, and there's also a train and a bridge incident being the highlights, which also includes this super cool montage grayscale spread page of Superman doing everyday things, and I found it really cool. I think it was written by Devin Grayson too, so I found that really interesting. You also have some of these stories too that either have different team ups or overall just different characters in the spotlight. There is a super long Supergirl introduction, if you will, issue 22, where it is all drawn by Brett Blevins, and it is a big 64 pager. So you are getting a ton also thrown in there as well. And I just glossed over it again, but there is also a team up between Superman and Batgirl. And I also found that issue really, really fun. And yes, stories featuring her, and also more a Brainiac, more a Parasite. And there are, again, the focus is just on so many different characters with so many different interpretations in terms of art, because again, you do have different artists in the back of the title, and so you will get different looks of that as well. I really do like the Mr. McShispitalik issues. Like, some of them I'm just like, man, these look so Disney-ish that I couldn't help but notice just how different a lot of those issues were. But I would be remiss if I did not get to talk about some of the other stories in the back of the book. We do have Jimmy Olsen and the New Gods being thrown into the wind. Somehow Jimmy Olsen, is he getting Superman's powers? Or what is going on with the New Gods? You've got Darkseid, because yes, you got Kirby-esque figures also thrown in here with Desaad and some other New Gods as well. So the High Genesis, and everything else dealing with the pantheon of the highest order of the DC universe is also thrown in here, and it's just hard to pass not summarizing that up. But it also has the official comics adaptation of the Batman and Superman World's Finest team up between him and also between the Lex Luthor, Man of Mystery, and everybody's favorite clown, none other than the Joker. I don't know if he's everybody's favorite clown, but he is the most recognizable one in the DC universe. So yes, it does indeed have every single bit of all of the scenes from what I remember in the TV show, and I do think that this specific episode of Superman the Animated Series is the most, not even just the most entertaining. I think this is by far the most popular TV, or the episode of the TV show, and it's the one I remember the most because Bruce Wayne tries to get in with Lois, and Lois is, like I said, she's a very smart person, so there is something that happens between her, Bruce, and also Clark that leaves you hanging in the suspense. And it is also hard to not think of how insane a Harley Quinn and Lex Luthor team up would also be. And you also have the special bonus issue, which is the Superman Adventures tie-in series called Titus, issue number 0. This has never been reprinted prior to this collection, and this is written by Joey Cavalieri with art by Joe Staton, who also drew the Batman and Superman World's Finest issue, along with the annual that's also thrown in here. So if you've played the video game, if you played the N64 game, you also get to see the backstory behind it, what is going on between that and Brainiac. So victory or defeat, it is up to you and up into your hands. This is a look at the back gallery as well. We do have extras in this book, which does feature a pinup by Watchmen creator, or co-creator I should say, Dave Gibbons, and also a variant cover by Bruce Timm. And that is it for the extras and the and whatnot. They do have a short bio on all of the major creators in this book. And the person I was talking about earlier that I wish was on it was Allure Amancio, who does draw most of the issues after Rick Burchett leaves. Terry Austin still inks it, but Amancio draws most of the issues in the back here. And that, as I say, is that. Now, if you're looking to buy Superman Adventures Compendium 1, please check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more.
And that is going to be it from me. Let me know down in the comments section if you are going to be planning on picking this one up. This was a little bit on my radar because I really, really like the DCAMU shows. It's really hard to pass up on any of them or that specific timeline. I love DC animated stuff, and I think this is well worth it. But that is going to be it from me. I am Dom of X. Please stay safe, Minties, and have a great one, as always.